And welcome in, ladies, gentlemen, and everything in between to the High Low Sports Podcast, one of the very few shows that you will see on the internet, and hopefully actually one of the very many that is not going to be found in any sort of released papers today. It is DJ, joined as always by my co-host Kelcey, as we get ready to talk about what's going on in the wide world of sports. And you know what? It feels pretty good today for us, at least. Maybe not for everybody, but for us, it feels pretty good.
Yeah. No email chain releases, no scandal coming out of High Low Sports, thankfully. No, we just get to talk about fun scandals, or maybe not necessarily scandals anymore. There have been rulings, but hey, yeah, nothing fun for us to actually experience. We just get to talk about it.
There will be plenty of fun. It just won't be necessarily that type of fun. But you know, we got a lot to get into when it comes to sports. So let's go ahead and jump into our opening segment of the show, which is known as the tip off, brought to you by our good friends over at SeatGeek. Use code BELLYUPSports for $20 off your first purchase for anything that requires tickets, sporting events, comedy shows, concerts. $20 off with code BELLYUPSports. And Dallas Mavericks fans, rejoice. Your nightmare is finally over. Nico Harrison is out as the GM in Dallas. Mavericks fans, it is finally over. There is such thing as the old saying is better late than never. In this case, not so much. The damage is already done. It is very, very late. This should have happened the moment he approached everyone saying, "Hey, I think I'm going to trade Luka Doncic." This should have immediately been said no. And right now they're feeling it. Last place in the West, not looking too good. Cooper Flagg is an 18-year-old kid asked to completely play like Luka Doncic at this point, basically. And Dallas is in the looks for a new GM. Took long enough. You don't like to crap on a man when they're down necessarily, but in this case, it's like, this is what happens. Your goal is to be the smartest person in the room as opposed to just getting results. And I think it kind of shows. And whoever their next GM is, it's going to be a tough pill, because this team was built around Luka and Kyrie. It was built perfectly. It got them to a finals. Then you took out Luka, and Kyrie's older and now has coming off a torn ACL. Now the team does not make sense construction-wise. Anthony Davis with Daniil Gafford and those guys is a weird mix. There's already rumors of them looking to trade Anthony Davis. So it's what an absolute mess with Nico Harrison, getting him out of there. The best thing that could happen for Mavericks fans. Most of you did not deserve this. Some of you all definitely did. Mm-hmm. Some of you definitely deserve this and a little bit more, but we won't focus on them. The rest of you rejoice. We're sorry you have to go through this. Hopefully the comeback is better than the setback. But Kelcey, it's finally over. The man who's been clowned on for 9 consecutive months, rightfully so, is finally out in Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure if you ask Mavericks fans, they'd say it's been longer that they've been clowning on him. Because let's not forget, Nico was hired straight from Nike. He has no front office NBA experience, and his first job in the NBA is GM of the Dallas Mavericks. Okay, let's just start there, and let's move our way forward to the fact that he somehow snuck a trade of Luka Doncic past everybody, because no other team it was able to say that, yeah, they called us. He literally only called his best, besides the Timberwolves, but he only called his best friend, Rob Pelinka, to get this done. Like, what are we doing here in the NBA where this was like considered a good GM trade, like good GM hire to begin with? Look, I know Mark Cuban had put together a whole team for this, and that whole team was ignored when they actually went to hire Nico. So I don't know what, but let's just say that the NBA continues to follow the script of not being quote unquote scripted. They are very much potentially their own scandal in its own right. Because now you have the owner of Sands Casino that runs the team and just conveniently is fighting for, betting and casinos to be legalized in Texas, and the NBA is now supporting him, conveniently enough. Look, I'll leave it that the conspiracy theories alone now. But no, let's talk about the actual thing about Nico. Yeah, obviously the front office trades were never great. That team could never really figure it out in the draft either. You need a competent GM. You need somebody who actually knows the game, who understands basketball, who actually understands what the X's and O's do and what it means to have a 12th man on the bench that is actually worth something for 5 minutes a game. The minute spread and what that means for a team. The fact that he was complaining because Luka was quote unquote fat. Like, I'm sorry. Yeah, sure. Players might play better when they're skinny, but they lose weight throughout the season. Actually, most players say they lose upwards of 20 playing pounds throughout the season. And that's like, you can't complain some kid is fat when he's just like, he's not that fat. Let's be honest. Luka is not that fat of a guy. I should know.
You really thought he was fat? Get him a subscription to Factor, or just get him a private chef. You're a multi-billion-dollar organization.
Pull a sponsor up and be like, hey, look, I want to get this sponsor deal done for this guy. I don't get what Nico's thing was in Dallas. It just seemed like everything he did was not a basketball decision. It was purely a financial business front decision, which would make sense considering he had zero basketball experience coming into his job in the NBA. And I'm not saying, yes, he worked for the basketball division for Nike. That's fine when you're talking about front facing deals, when you're talking about sponsorship deals, when you're talking about those type of contracts. It's not fine when you're talking about putting players on the field, on the court to perform. And so, yeah, Mavs fans probably super excited. I think Mark Cuban himself is super excited. Let's not forget he still is a partial owner of the Mavs. He's no longer a primary owner since he sold his shares. But yeah, you look at this and it's like it's a crazy situation, but it's good to be done with. Now, hopefully, they don't go and bomb it once again. And yet, it never fails. And I'm just going to continue this trend one more time. Somehow, you trade away a superstar and get number 1 overall pick. Let's just stop and think about that for a second.
I'll give him credit for getting those moves to get Daniil Gafford, those guys a couple years ago at that trade deadline, which helped propel them, just filling out some of those spots a little bit later. But like you said, other than that, you completely cancel that out 7 months later off a finals run with Luka coming in injured to start the season. You blame him being fat and his drinking habits, among other things that were released. And then you trade him. You don't just trade him either, which is bad enough. You trade him for not even as many draft picks as Rudy Gobert got. Not even a fraction of that. And a 32-year-old talented but often injured Anthony Davis, who's on the, I'll say the backside of his career. I know NBA you could play a little bit longer, but with his injuries, we'll say it's the back end of his career. Still a great player, but not comparable to a top 3 to 5 25-year-old. And you sent him to the evil empire of the West. You sent him to your direct competition in the Lakers. That's what's crazy is that's, like you said, that's the only team that really had any conversation besides the Timberwolves, who weren't going to give up Anthony Edwards. It's like trading Luka Doncic. You don't do that unless in this particular case. So there's so many different things wrong with how we got to this point. And I really hope whoever that GM is, Cooper Flagg, I think is going to be a very, very good player. He's a very good piece to build around. I think the thing is you have to build around him now because everything else was thrown out the window. That team was built around Luka Doncic's unique skill set with Kyrie as that co-pilot with him. And it worked. It got him to a damn finals where they lost to a statistically, historically great team in the Celtics as far as point differential, defense, offense, all those other things. That's a tough one to lose to. Come back in the next season, he's not at his best. He's obviously a little slow start. Look how he finished the season though last year. And look what he's doing right now. Look what skinny Luke is doing right now. It's like we talk about skinny Joker. Did Denver trade Jokic when he was considered fat? No, they probably said, hey, cut this little bit, just cut a few pounds and you'll be freaky.
Drink a little less while you're taking care of your horses during the summer. Like that's what they told him.
And then look what it turned into now. Now he's a top 15 all-time player, give or take, depending who you talk to. And with Luka's well on that trajectory too. And they screwed the pooch. And I really do feel for those Mavs fans because it feels like that was stolen from you. Like that was your guy. That was the one you were out. You were drafted there. That was your guy in basketball, especially. It's a more individual type sport compared to like football, where you rally around that type of player, like Cleveland, LeBron, Kobe in LA, Miami, Dwayne Wade, guys like that, the Jokic in Denver. And then that was just sapped away from you, Giannis and the Bucks, just to hit a few of them. Steph and the Warriors. I could go on and on. This is my point. I can't just figure out when to stop the comparisons. And it was just yanked out from you in the middle of the night, like taking the Browns out of Cleveland or taking the Colts out of Baltimore. So it just yanked out of you away from you in the middle of the night. And you didn't get much in return unless Cooper Flagg ends up being one of the coldest white guys ever entered the NBA. Those are some big old shoes to fill. So I hope he is, just for Mavs fans, because most of them, as we said at the start, do not deserve this. Some of you do, and I hope they're suffering. But the rest of them do not.
Yeah, you look at this in multiple ways of just what can the Mavs do going forward, and what's the next GM going to be looking for, and how do you get the best out of Cooper Flagg? It's going to be tough. It's going to be a tough situation you coming into. Obviously, Mavs fans are jaded. They need to figure something out. You got to figure out a way to get the fans behind them. And I think this is going to be I hate to say it, but it should be a long hiring process to get this new GM in the door. And hey, if you guys want to hire somebody with no basketball front office experience, I'm open. But honestly, you look at this as like, you got to get this right, Mavs. You just made a couple mistakes, big mistakes, not small mistakes, but big mistakes. like even Trae Young. This is not one of your comparisons, but he's the one that I think of. Even Atlanta refuses to trade Trae Young, despite him not being anywhere near the level of talent nor superstardom that Luka has. But they still rally around him because the fans rally around him.
You know, if they're going to, they're getting 4 first-round picks. They're not getting one and an aging player.
Exactly. It's going to have to be a bank. And you look at this as just a category of, all right, well, now if you're the Mavs going forward, when this new GM does step in, what does he have to do? Number one, you have to assess this roster. You have to assess the coach too. Is he still up to snuff?
Could be. It's hard to tell right now.
Like you got 2 players on the roster that can actually play, and then you got Kyrie who's injured and not injured. Then you have Ant who's injured and not injured. You just never know. But you have Cooper Flagg. Okay. But what else do you have? Gafford? Okay. Now then what? You obviously need to figure that out because Kyrie and Ant are not going to be around for a long time. It's going to be a long term.
You can see that
because of one trade.
So the Mavericks are going after the Wi-Fi right now. They're trying to spike Kelcey as he tries to lay it out right now. They're not happy with what he's about to say. They're going after him.
Nah, but look, it's just gonna be something you gotta figure this out long term. Because it's you got to figure out a succession plan. You got to figure out your next steps. This is not going to be a 3 years and fire somebody else. Like if you're the Mavs, you have to be in here for a 5 to 7 year period to get this going, and it's gonna be intense. And I feel bad for Mavs fans. And obviously, I predicted the Mavs will make the playoffs this year. There's still a possibility people get healthy and they can do it, and they could be at 6, 7, 8 seed, but historically in our lifetime, the Dallas Mavericks have not been a 6, 7, 8 seed. They've been a 3 through 5 seed when they do make the playoffs. Otherwise, they just crash out. But there's never really like the whole Dirk era is not far gone, and they were making the playoffs with Dirk. They were making the playoffs with Luka. You're going one of the worst teams in the league right now. What are you going to do for the next 3 years with Cooper Flagg, who is going to have a contract up in 4? You have a lot of work to do, and you have to prove by that time that Cooper gets up for his next contract that they are a team that he should stick with. And just one point on Luka, the dude never wanted to leave Dallas, so that's even more of a shot to the heart. Nico traded somebody who didn't want to leave Dallas, and honestly, I was in Dallas for a week and I was ready to go. So I love the food though. Just
not the heat, that's for sure.
It's expensive, man. Dallas is expensive.
Well, when you're Luka, nothing is expensive, especially that contract he was going to be eligible for if they didn't trade him. That could have. There's a lot of different ways to be handled. It's been hit ad nauseum, but you know what, Dallas fans, the future is hopefully a little bit less bright. Not as bright as it was 9.5 months ago before this happened, but hopefully a little bit brighter. And like you said, there is a chance Kyrie comes back, Anthony Davis stays healthy, Cooper Flagg develops. Maybe they make something down the push. Then next year we'll see. Or it all comes crashing out and they trade all those assets and they try and go full thunder. We'll see for sure. But let us know down below what you all think about this. Are we being unreasonable? Maybe he shouldn't have got ice. He didn't get a chance for his plan to come to fruition, his master plan. But if one of the viewers out there, go ahead and drop it in the comments because I'm very curious to hear it. But
I would love to have them on the show if that's their belief.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there if they are found. But we're going to stick in the NBA, but we're going to talk about something that could be a little bit better depending on who you talk to, or at least it's going to be a lot more widespread hatred or a lot more widespread love as the NBA announces its new all-star game format, and they've put together these nice visual aids for us so we can go through it. So there will be U.S. versus the world. There will be 2 U.S. teams versus 1 world team. The NBA all-star game, it's going to feature 3 round-robin little mini tournament, if you will. The 3 teams will feature 24 NBA All-Star selections. So that will be 8 players per team, which is about what it normally is, where it's normally 12 and 12. Now you're going to get 3 separate sections of 8. To move on, player selection, the 24 All-Stars without regard to position, 12 from each conference. So we're going to see a whole lot of guards versus Jokic and Giannis. I can't wait for that. There's not going to be nearly as many big men as normal. 5 starters from each conference will be selected by the fans, 50% of the vote, current NBA players 25%, and a media panel 25%. We all know how well that goes. 7 reserves from each conference will be selected by head coaches. If all-star voting does not result in the selection of 16 U.S. players and 8 international players, then NBA commissioner will select an additional player or players to join either group. How will this work, you say? Well, let's take a look. Each team will play each other once in the round-robin mini tournament, with the top 2 teams then advancing to face each other in the championship game. Each of the 4 games will consist of a standard 12-minute period, so basically 1 quarter. Excuse me. For each game, the winner will be the team with the highest score after 12 minutes. So here's an example. Team A versus Team B. The winner of this one takes on Team C. Loser takes on Team C here in game 3. You see kind of that idea how it goes here. The 2 teams from the best all 3 records, championship game. So that's going to be happening in a few months, February 15th, the day after Valentine's Day. Los Angeles All-Star 2026. And my first initial response are, yeah, that world team is going to, if they want to, they will smoke those other 2 teams. If you look at arguably the top 5 players in the world, Jokic, worldwide. Giannis, worldwide. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, worldwide. Luka Doncic, worldwide. That 5th spot, it's kind of up between Anthony Edwards. Jason Tatum's not available. So, I mean, you look at that 5th spot, maybe that's where you get one of the U.S. players, and the U.S. team's going to be split with 2 separate groups of 8, where the world team's going to have all 4 of those guys in just the starting lineup, plus however else they fill out the roster. Yeah, you know what? I have a feeling if they actually want to, the world's going to really take it to the 2 split U.S. teams. I am intrigued to see how this works, though, because NBA All-Stars, we've kind of talked about, in recent years has not been the NFL bad, but it hasn't quite lived up to what it once was, per se. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to do this, and if it's still going to affect like the dunk contest, the 3-point shootout, if those are going to remain the same. But I'll give it a chance before I hate on it. But it does seem like we are truly doing the most. But if it works, it could be fun. But I'm going to put the house on the world team as of right now, assuming there's no injuries.
Yeah, you talked about not having a very many big men. There are 3 big men that will start for the world team. Victor, Nikola Jokic, Giannis, and then you have Luka and Shai. That's arguably the top 5 in the NBA today. And then you have
shooting over that.
Yeah. And then you're going to have the split U.S. team. So you're going to have Steph Curry, Anthony Edwards, Jalen Brunson, Kevin Durant, LeBron, if he's healthy, split. That's the next 5 U.S. players. That's 5 through 10 currently in the top 100 probably. And they're going to be split amongst 2 teams. So you're not even going to have a solidified best 5 from that U.S. to start. Can we stop this USA versus the world crap? That's what I want. I'm tired and sick and tired of this international versus USA crap. It's so dumb. The US has to just accept the fact that the world's best player right now is not American.
Like you said, arguably 4 of the top 5
the top 3 players in the world are not American. And I can say that with 100% certainty. 4 and 5, yes, that could be up for conversation. But the top 3 players in the world right now are the reigning MVP, a 2-time MVP, and another guy who probably should have won an MVP. Or you could pick Giannis, who's a 2-time MVP and Defensive Player of the Year, or Vic if you want to pick an alien. Like, take your pick for that 3 spot, but they're all international players.
By the way, Jokic 3-time MVP now. Let's not get it twisted.
Don't
you be shortchanging it now. I don't need Denver coming after us. He earned at least 3 of those.
My bad. He is a 3-time MVP, but this feels like an unnecessary milk call out here, if you will, for my NFL fans. This is unnecessary. And then you're going to give and then you're going to dilute the USA team. It's like, oh, we're so great. We can split into 2 teams and be better. No, we're only good in the Olympics. Stop trying to do this. And even in the Olympics, let's be honest. Have we been that great lately? No, we needed a redeem team to come back and win. A redeem. We had to redeem ourselves from failure.
That redeem team was pretty cold, though.
It was. Look, hey, Steph's
since then it's gone downhill.
But look, that's 5 years ago, 6 years ago now, 3 years ago now.
Redeem team, isn't that 2008? Or are we thinking of a different redeem team?
No, I'm thinking of the Steph night.
You're thinking of the super redeem team. I'm thinking of 2008.
Thinking of the most recent redeem team.
Redeem team part 3. Okay,
not the Melo, not that team, because that team was another team that just this is what the US does. But I don't know. NBA just needs to stop with this. I'm fine if this was the 24 best players voted on by the fans, media panel players, and then they just split them into 3 teams, do what hockey does. That's absolutely fine with me. But when you put USA mandates and international mandates, and then you're like, oh, Adam Silver gets to pick the remaining players. No. We just talked about the potential conspiracy in Dallas. I don't want the commissioner picking players that could potentially impact the starting 5 of a team. Stop this. This is ridiculous on so many levels. the NBA just go back to just straight 5-on-5. I'm so sick and tired of this trying to play with this. This is like what, the 7th change in 10 years? I'm like, I can't do this every year. This is crazy to me how many times they've tried to change this format. And supposedly, by the way, in 2002, the NBA All-Star game was back. Well, it's just fallen off again in 23 years. So, yeah, this is egregious. I honest to God, hate the NBA All-Star format. I love an NBA All-Star Saturday night. I hate the game.
I didn't mind it when they had the 2 highest vote getters pick the teams. I thought that was interesting because it
Yeah,
added
that's
a
fine.
fun dynamic, and it made some fun cinema with Charles Barkley looking at Kevin Durant like, "So you gonna take James Harden?" Right after he got traded from the Nets. It at least had some cinema feel to it. And
It's honestly, it's outside of the court stuff about All-Star Weekend is so much more fun. But then it's like when you try to change the rules of what basketball is and make it something it's not, I I could care less. Honestly, I liked the point system that they had previously. I thought that was a really interesting point system. I thought it made a little bit more fun for how to win the final game, but I didn't like the splitting of it. But I get for money work purposes, you can donate more money that way. That's fine. But yeah, this new changes to the teams. Just stop it. Like, just give me 3 teams or give me 4 teams. Let's run round robins. I don't care. Just stop trying to make the game better. That, like, let's be honest. Everybody watched the All-Star weekend for the dunk contest, for the 3-point shootout, which, by the way, is also falling down slowly but surely. So I'd rather watch those. I honestly could care less about the game.
I'm just gonna say, if based on how it's set up now, where they're making it World, US, Olympics, all that stuff, my early MVP vote is Kevin Durant because he absolutely thrives in these situations. I mean, arguably you can make the case as the best Olympics player of all time with all his medals. So I guess that's gonna be my early vote if we're that because that's the closest I can think of right now.
If we're playing with a FIBA ball, I agree. But if we're playing with the actual NBA ball, no chance. And by the way, if anybody wonders why I just made that, the FIBA ball is a women's US size basketball.
I'm just
That's
saying
what.
Kevin Durant's cold if you give him
Yeah,
a brick. Like you can
but
give him a brick ball.
it's also like if we play FIBA rules, KD is that dude. But if we're playing NBA rules, which I assume we are to some degree, it's not going to be like if you're going to split it by international versus US, you have to go by international basketball rules. You should be going by that, not by NBA rules, which is a whole nother issue. Because honestly, if they played international basketball in the NBA, there might be a whole different set of players that are the best players in the nation, best players in the league than that are currently. And I don't think the world's ready for that conversation. At least the NBA world's not ready for that conversation. But yeah, let's just say that Rudy Gobert would be a god if we played by FIBA rules instead of by NBA rules.
Still casting my vote for Kevin Durant right now, assuming he's healthy, and that's going to pay out a lot. But we've talked a lot about the basketball format. Let us know down below what you all think of it. Let's go take a look to a new format in its own right. We're going to go to the college football playoffs as we are now in week 2 with the official rankings for the playoffs and the bracket out and about with a little bit of a shakeup. This not a huge one, but let's go and just take a look at what the bracket is looking like right now. Not a lot of surprises here. 1, 2, 3, 4 largely remain the exact same with Ohio State, Indiana, Texas A&M, and Alabama. I am mildly surprised that Indiana got to keep that 2 spot just because of how close that was with Penn State. I thought maybe you would give A&M the jump there, but no real complaints here. The big change is Texas Tech now up to number 6. We do see BYU did fall out after that. I'm going to call it justice considering that quarterback wearing number 47. This is justice for all by them getting knocked out by Texas Tech. Notre Dame climbing up to 11. Ole Miss and Texas have underratedly good matchup 7 and 10 that I like. USF making it in against Georgia, but Miami at number 11. I get it, the top of the ACC, but I don't like it. It doesn't look right. I'm not feeling it. Those are my biggest issues is Notre Dame and Miami. I get how Miami's in there because of the ACC getting the automatic bid. Notre Dame, we talked about it last week. I'm going to hammer it home. They should not be in here. If you're going to, they should be 12 at best. They should not be number 9. I don't get it. I don't like it. It doesn't feel right. Oregon wins that game by 15. I'm taking the spread at that point. I don't like it, but I like most of it, though. Like Texas Tech getting up to number 6. I do enjoy. I think they earned that for sure. Georgia at 5. No one's shocked here. And I'm really going to be curious to see when we get that SEC championship and that Big Ten championship, if that shakes things up. Because you know darn well they're looking for any reason to move and shuffle around. I don't know if these 4 will remain here after championship weekend, but as of right now, no real complaints. If I had to shake anything up, maybe I give A&M the 2 spot just because Indiana was an all-time catch and moment away from being upset by a Penn State team that lost 4 in a row, but we're splitting hairs at that point.
Yeah, I'm looking at number 11 Miami as my biggest egregious factor in here. They're not number 1 in the ACC, by the way. They are 6th in the ACC.
I did not catch that, so that's even
They are
worse.
6th in the ACC, and they're ahead of number 1 in the ACC, Georgia Tech. The 6th-ranked team in its conference has a playoff spot, while the 1st-ranked team in their conference is not being given a playoff spot. Can somebody please give me explanation, world? I didn't think I was going to go off on today's show, but this is ridiculous, man. Like, what are we doing? Like, okay, if you had picked number 2 in the ACC, number 3, number 4, I probably have less complaints because at least those teams are playing well right now. You could have even picked Louisville, who's 5th in the ACC, and I'd been happier with this than picking Miami for this spot. If I wanted to pick off of a legacy, then Navy would be in here, then Harvard would be in here, then USC would be in here, then Texas and Oklahoma and all these teams. Washington and Colorado would be in this playoff. What are we picking Miami for? I don't care if there are Hurricane fans that want to hate me for this. This is the dumbest thing I've seen in my life when it comes to a college football ranking anywhere. When you are picking a 6th-ranked team in your conference over the top 5 teams in the conference, I have no words for this. I'm fine with everything else. Honestly, Notre Dame does frustrate me, but again, legacy picks. That's what we're picking. If we're looking at the game of NCAA, they got 6 stars on their legacy ranking. Like, fine. I hate it, but fine. But Miami, why? Just how much are they paying these folks? Like, we just had a big thing about fixing games in the NBA. Can we have a conversation about fixing playoff rankings when it comes to college football playoff conversations? Because this is stupid. Like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. And I'm glad I can't watch 95% of the games on Disney, or thanks to Disney and YouTube TV, because otherwise I'd get even more frustrated by this. And I'm already very frustrated by this. This is absurd.
I'm going to pile on to the absolute idiocy too. So Georgia Tech is number 1 in the ACC rankings. I know they lost to NC State in a shootout. Yeah, they didn't even go down in the actual rankings. They're number 16. So they went up a spot. So we can't even play that, which even more egregiously, Miami went up 3 spots to number 15. So they jumped them despite it all, because Louisville and Virginia losing, they dropped 5 spots apiece. So this was literally just as soon as there was a crevice, they yanked those 2 teams down and pulled Miami up. And then by default, Georgia Tech got a spot, Georgia Tech, top of the ACC, automatic bid. They should be in there 100%. I don't understand this. I'm so confused. The graphic says November 11th, and it's directly from the college football NCAA website. So
yeah,
unless there was a goof or something's going on,
that's their playoff ranking.
I don't get this. I'm so confused. I'm at a loss for words. Notre Dame, you are free this week. Will not be ragging on you, because what in the world are you doing? I don't understand how they could get to that spot. And even 11, they're not even the last one in, which is even more insane. They're not even the last one in. They didn't just sort of creep in either. Yeah, I don't understand this. I don't get it. It is so confusing. You had an independent ranked number 9 that is 7-2. The 6th team in the ACC at 7-2 gets in there over the likes of, as we mentioned, Georgia Tech, all those other teams. You still have teams like Oklahoma just on the outside looking in, Utah, BYU coming off that loss, which I'm okay with because that 47 will never be acceptable. Vanderbilt's 8-2. There's Michigan is 7-2. USC is 7-2. I know an ACC team has to get in there, but you didn't pick the ACC winner, which is even more of a problem. I'm baffled. I'm at a loss for words. This is the issue. I'm hoping that next week this won't be the case and it'll shake itself out, but this is not a good look for the second one so far.
Yeah, this is. I'm looking at the playoff committee just so I can see if there's anybody in here that is just undeserving. And I'll be fair.
Michael Irvin on there?
No. I'll be fair. Most of them are pretty well-renowned people. Dude that's been covering NCAA for 40 years. That's great. Congratulations. Mark D'Antonio is in here. Like, there are guys in here that I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I just don't know what they're doing with this vote. Like, How is this happening?
What happened to the game I love?
I don't even want to go there. Like, look, I've already had enough problems with college football this year as an Auburn fan. Let me just be fair. All right. And I'm already frustrated as hell because there's Hugh Freeze out there in the world. And I'm glad he finally got let go and he was never the right hire. And so be it. But also, the refs suck. And it's not just Auburn games anymore. It is literally all across the country. It's not just SEC referees. And yeah, the conference may come out and say after the game, 3 days later, we made a mistake. What does that mean, though? Because you just gypped out 18, 19, and 20-year-olds out of an opportunity to make more money in their career because of a dumb non-call. Because let's be honest, they're not happening in Alabama games. They're not happening in Ohio State games. They're not happening in, right now, Indiana games, although there were a couple that are questionable. They're happening in games in mid-level teams. Auburn falls in that category. You know, it's like, why? Why is this? Why are we okay with mediocrity right now? We're okay with mediocrity in our playoff rankings. We're okay in our mediocrity in coaching. We're okay with mediocrity in our front offices and AD commission rooms. We just talked about an NBA GM who was a garbage GM. And mediocrity was okay for how many years? Okay, long enough that he could trade your superstar and still have another year. It's ridiculous. I don't know. I'm just gonna leave it there. I made my point. I don't think I need to go off on another rant again, but hey, going back to the heartland and going back to the rants here.
Well, the good news is you're not done ranting yet because we're going into Kelcey's favorite part of every show. That is, of course, the Heisman hierarchy, his weekly ranking of who was going atop towards the Heisman vote. I'm willing to safe to say there will not be a Miami Hurricane on this list.
No Miami Hurricane. Not this year, at least. Number one, Ty Simpson. Look, he had a good game, but he was also held pretty ineffective. But he's still not bad enough to drop him off of this list. He still stays here. It doesn't drop him off of the bottom three because there's really been nobody to replace him in the top three. Now, number two on my list is a guy who had a great week. That's Julian Sayin. 300 plus yards, 3 touchdowns, probably the number one overall option for most Heisman voters out there. That's fine. I just don't think he's done enough to confirm me against good talent as the number one quarterback in the nation, as the number one player in the nation. Because number one in the nation is still Fernando Mendoza to me. He still has the best chance of winning a Heisman. I still think it's going to come down to championship weekend. We've talked about that already enough times because it is Ohio State and it is Indiana that's going to end up playing in the Big 10 championship game. Sorry, Big 12, whatever they want to call themselves.
No,
the big championship game.
Never forget.
Yeah, the big championship game because they don't know how to actually write out their whole name. But yeah, it's going to come down to that. And I hate to say Ty Simpson's out of it, but unless he goes 303 touchdowns every game with no interceptions with like an 85% completion rate for the next 4 weeks, which he can do. They do play Auburn in a couple weeks, so there's a great chance. I don't think he has enough to get over it. And I really look at these three and then maybe Marcel Reed as those are going to be your guys in New York when it comes down to it. But for right now, this is where we're at.
I think Mendoza, especially, he just had his Heisman moment. I know it was against Penn State, a reeling Penn State team, but that's still an incredible moment. That drive at the end of the game, that incredible throw on third down. Like, I think that could be his Heisman moment, depending on what happens moving forward. That Big Ten championship game is going to tell a lot. I think Julian saying, where's Jeremiah Smith going to take some of his steam as well? Are they going to compete almost against each other in a way? Ty Simpson, like you said, he's going to have to light it up the rest of the way. Depending on what he does against A&M, I think that could propel him too. If Mendoza and Sayin, let's say they play fine, like 200 yards, couple touchdowns each. It's a close game. But then Ty Simpson obliterates A&M. I think theirs could be it could definitely be shaken up. I feel like these three, my honorable mention is Jeremiah Smith, just like that fourth looking at Marcel Reed if he goes ballistic down the stretch too. But it feels like these three will be in New York all but locked in, barring something catastrophic happening in the next 2 weeks to either one of their campaigns.
Yeah, and I can't for the life of me, his name's running away from me. I think it's Sorsby, the quarterback for Louisville. Barring Louisville winning the ACC outright, I don't think he gets a chance to end up in New York. But I got to give credit where credit's due. The guy has rocketed himself up the board the last couple weeks, and he's been leading this Louisville team beyond what anybody believed they could be. Because as I said, they are a top 5 team in the ACC right now. Like, they are better than Miami. So if you're leading a playoff level caliber team based on the rankings right now, I could say that then you should have an outside chance of getting in here. So I really look at 4 realistic possibilities with Sorsby, Jeremiah Smith, and maybe you could say Jeremiah Love as the 3 guys that maybe could sneak their way into New York, barring a bad game from maybe Ty Simpson and then Marcel Reed. They could probably bump themselves into New York. But yeah, I think this might be a 3 Heisman New York day this year. I don't think we're going to see 4 or more because, they have done 6 before, but it's been a long time. I do think this is one we're going to see probably only 3 Heisman Trophy candidates.
But we know how much they love Notre Dame based on the fact that they're number 8 in the rankings. So maybe Jeremiah Love does get in there just off the Notre Dame love. I won't rule it out, but be sure to let us know down below who you all have as your Heisman hierarchy top 3. Drop those down below. How do they compare to Kelcey's? Are they wildly different? Are they identical? Or is there a little bit of a mix of both? But that's going to do it here for the tip-off, which will now take us into the center part of our show. That is the main event. For the main event, we're going to head to the league. There's some big changes going on in the Big Apple. Not just Brian Daboll being let go as the head coach of the Giants. They'll have a new head coach for this week. They'll also have a new quarterback for this week as Jackson Dart in concussion protocol, the 4th time this year because he is a battering ram. And unfortunately, he has more than 2 brain cells, so he can't Cam Scatterboo it. It eventually comes back to bite him. So we will see Jameis Winston potentially taking the helmet quarterback for the Giants. So new head coach. I believe it is Kafka that will be filling in as the head coach. Jameis Winston playing quarterback. The horses are ready for battle. Green Bay coming off an embarrassing Monday night loss. That's who they get to deal with. What can go wrong, right? This is either going to end up in the Giants with an massive upset. Jameis throwing 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 pick sixes, 5 total touchdowns. Or it's going to be an absolute catastrophe. It's going to be a masterclass of, oh my gosh, this is a mess. I can't wait. This is going to be unintentional cinema one way or the other.
Yeah, look, I am, as much as I can't watch college football, I love watching Sunday Ticket, and I will be tuning in to the New York Giants game because I do think this is going to be very entertaining. I do worry that the worst thing could happen for Jackson Dart and for the future of the New York Giants, which is Jameis to throw for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns in an upset win over the Green Bay Packers. That is the worst case scenario for the future of the Giants. And everybody's gonna be like, well, what are you talking about? Jackson Dart is your future. It is what it is. You have hitched every wagon to him, and he is actually shown to be that guy. Cam Scatterboo will be your running back if he can come back healthy after this ankle injury. We won't know until next year. Realistically, the best thing could be maybe you don't bring Jackson Dart back for the rest of the year. And I don't suggest that by any means, but hey, if you're the Giants, maybe you do let Jameis, if he goes in 404 yards or 400 yards and 4 touchdowns, yeah, just don't put Russell in. That's all I care about. Just no more Russell. No more. I've said this since he got traded to Denver. This guy is not a Super Bowl winner anymore. He stopped being a Super Bowl winner on the 4th down pass on the goal line.
3rd down, even worse.
Sorry, 3rd down.
Actually, might have been 2nd down because 1st down got them. I think it was 2nd down, actually.
Anyways, when he threw the pick against the Patriots in the end zone, that was the day he stopped being a Super Bowl winning quarterback. And it's because he stopped doing the best thing for the team. When you've heard every interview come out and say that moment that they walked into the huddle and every player looked at Russ like he had 3 heads when he said it was a pass play, like Marshawn Lynch was already walking to his spot and he's ready to go run somebody over. And then he's like, wait, it's a pass? And then he's just like, well, I don't care anymore. That's the day that Russ was no longer available to be a Super Bowl winning quarterback. So he's not your quarterback for the future. So Jameis needs to go out here and perform, but also I hope he doesn't throw for 404 touchdowns, because if he does, then this team is going to stick their way to Jameis, preventing Jackson from continuing his growth and maybe hopefully learning to get down instead of running over people. And you could have a situation where now you have unnecessary questions in next year and you turn into the Browns when it comes to finding a quarterback. It doesn't take much to turn into the Browns when you're failing at finding quarterbacks. You just have to fail to find a quarterback for 3 years. And right now you're on year 3 of not finding a quarterback if you're the Giants. So yeah, best case scenario, this is a situation where, yeah, Jameis does well, but they don't bring back Jackson Dart. Worst case scenario, he does well, and then they have a competition. But yeah, look, Brian Daboll, it didn't work in the Giants. It wasn't going to work in the Giants. I said that when he got hired. So
I'm just mostly annoyed that we don't get to see Jameis throwing relentless, no F's given bombs to Malik Neighbors. That is the travesty we unfortunately are missing out on right now. They stole that.
Darius Slayton though.
Can't wait to see him throwing those 300-mile-an-hour swing passes to Wan'Dale Robinson. Like, we have been robbed of what could have been greatness. We were robbed of Jackson Darts, Lane Kiffin, RPO offensive. You know what? Malik said one-on-one. Let's just throw it up there. We have been robbed. I look forward to that next year. We have the battering ram Cam Scatterbo and those 3 remaining brain cells, Jackson Dart, Malik Neighbors. Maybe at this point, if, let's say, Jameis Winston plays well, give Dart another week just to relax. I'm not saying take him out the whole season. I'm the 4 concussion protocol visits already in 70, taking 77 hits already. Dabo hitched saving his job to trying to turn Jackson Dart into Josh Allen. And I think we need to quit trying to turn quarterbacks into Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. They are anomaly freaks. You can't really develop people into that. Don't run. Jackson Dart, a lot of it's his fault. He needs to learn how to.
I was just saying, okay, there you go.
I'm talking about I'm talking about the quarterback designed runs on third down and 4. And you're like, let's run QB power 3 times in a row. I'm concerned with those. And he maybe give him a week or 2, relax. Let's see how it goes. He is your future. He is your guy. By all intents and purposes, he looks great. You just need to quit leading with his head. He needs to not be Cam Scatterbo. He is the quarterback, not the running back muscle hamster. So I think him learning to get down, being able to continue to develop. I want him to play more, but I want him to not get more concussions. And that's why I was so annoyed with that many design quarterback runs. He's already going to scramble when he panics and doesn't like what he sees. That's what young quarterbacks that can move do. That's what they should do. If the read's not there, you don't just stand there and get sacked. That hurts more. You run, he just needs to learn how to fall down. So I'm very curious to see how this is all going to play out, but I think we're going to see the Jameis masterclass of like 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 picks. One goes the opposite way against Green Bay. That pass rush could still get after him. The Giants' offensive line, while fine-ish, there's still some issues. What I think would be best for the Giants is you have your quarterback by all intents and purposes. You have your elite receiver. You have a running back to build around. Awesome left tackle when he does play. Good defensive line, good pieces. Maybe you end up as a top 5 pick with a quarterback. That's a very rare commodity that's very likable and something that's – I'm not saying you should intentionally lose out or tank, but you are 2-8 and you just fire Brian Daboll for a little bit late. You're going to be in the head coaching hunt. You should be firing Joe Shane, but they're not doing that, so that might be an issue in itself. But there could be worse things happen. But either way, I'm excited to see Jameis Winston, at least for this week. Just there will be 4 touchdowns. Whether they're all to Giants or not, we will see. But he will account for 4 touchdowns in one way or the other.
Yeah, I need to go back to my mediocrity comment from earlier. Why does Joe Shane still have a job? After the Saquon thing, why does he still have a job?
And it's even shown that it's not like Jackson Dart's his guy. He was reluctant for Jackson Dart. That was Daboll's guy on top of it. So it's like they either both go or just Shane goes on top of it. Like he didn't want him at all.
No. Look, his best move so far is getting Brian Burns in. But even that hasn't necessarily expanded to the point where it should. Because let's be realistic. Yeah, like that team defensively is not bad. It just offensively is rudderless, and especially when your best option was the Bash Brothers, for lack of another term. I just can't think of what else to call them because
creatine Caucasians.
Yeah, like I just can't sit here and watch 17 read options and think, all right, this is NFL football anymore. It's what it turned into, and you half of them were designed keepers for, like you said, Jackson Dart. And my only comment on the Jackson Dart thing was like, the dude just needs to learn how to get down, like give himself up, don't get hit. I will say this though, Josh Allen struggled with this through the first 3 years of his career as well, as did many running minded quarterbacks struggle with if they've ran over people. Cam was the one I hated watching in the NFL the most because I'm like, Cam, other than the fact that you're 6'6", 300 pounds, essentially, like that dude was still taking shots. And I mean shots.
And they took longer than others, but when they hit, boy, did they hit.
It killed the longevity of his career more so than it killed his actual immediate impact. And that's what I worry about with somebody like Jackson Dart, where you look at career-wise, Troy Aikman, guys like that, when they suffer concussions, especially as a quarterback position, it doesn't take long for them to drop a gear because they can't get up there anymore because now you're paranoid about taking that hit. Tua, for all intents and purposes, was a great quarterback option coming out for the NFL. And it has slowly, surely dwindled into a running joke for everybody watching the Miami Dolphins. And I worry Jackson Dart's going to get there. So I hope whatever happens in New York, they figure it out. But like, get rid of both GM and head coach because that obviously doesn't work very often. Very rarely does it work. I'm looking at you, Bears right now as a very rare option where it does work, where you get rid of the head coach and 2 head coaches under 1 GM, and it still works out that the GM's successful after that with a third coach. Like, that shocks me that that's working. I don't know if it's going to work in New York.
I don't love it. And it's not like he has a great tracker. It's not like the team's loaded with talent or anything like that. No one looks at that team as like, wow, they're loaded. Right now, they finally have some talent, and that we know Jackson Dart looks like he could be he is your quarterback of the future. They got good defensive line talent, an elite receiver who's out, and what we think is going to be a good running back for a short time, not a long time, but it's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
And an elite left tackle who's missed more games than he's played the last 2 years, unfortunately. It's not like I look at the Colts GM, for example, that he should have been fired many years ago, but he kept getting these really good draft picks and just couldn't quite connect. The quarterback position issue. Now you see when they just got slightly above mediocrity at quarterback, it all clicks. That doesn't seem to be the case in New York. It's not like they were on a winning streak and then people started getting hurt. They were still 2-7. They were still struggling. So I agree with you. He needs to be out. There's to be more changes in the Big Apple, and they're in a weird position where you can have your quarterback and potentially a top 3 pick, because right now it's very crowded at the top. It just like the Titans are kind of in a similar spot. It's very crowded up there. So we'll see how things change. But we're going to stick in the NFC East now. We're going to go from quarterback controversy to controversy. Controversy is not a whole lot of brotherly love going on with the Eagles and A.J. Brown. And you know what? Let's just, on a Madden stream too, just kind of being honest, is after a very hideous win against the Packers where they had 0 points at halftime, on a Madden stream, you got me in fantasy, go ahead and get rid of me. I appreciate the honesty there. I didn't draft him for reasons like this, but I digress. The only highlights were playing Madden of this season, and he's basically living it while playing Madden. Rumors that more or less just saying what we kind of already know there is that he's not very happy. And I'm going to start with it by don't really need to be. And by the way, he did double down on it when asked about it by the reporter. Say he's like, yeah, I'm frustrated. Have you seen what's going on? Like, I want to contribute and I get 3 targets. He didn't say it, but Will Shipley should never have more receiving yards in a game than him. But we're not even 48 hours away from that happening. Will Shipley is like the 3rd running back for the Eagles, in case anyone's not aware. So while I disagree with how we kind of went about it on the stream and just the tweets, the Instagram posts, that sort of thing, he's not really wrong. I mean, I get it. When you're an elite receiver like that, you can't be having. He has 2 games this year already with 3 targets or less. Not 3 catches, 3 targets. He's not even being involved. And obviously, everyone will say it should only be about winning, which is obviously the case. But at the same time, he knows how talented he is. He is a specimen of a receiver. I'm not going to say he's Terrell Owens, but there's a lot of similarities as far as DBs do not really want smoke with him when he gets going downhill. When he's off the Chipotle, he could be a top 5 receiver in the NFL at any given moment. And he's basically getting ignored. He probably has Hall of Fame aspirations and immortality, quote unquote, football mortality. You're not going to get there without any sort of statistical relevance. And not to mention, he kind of alluded to, and he probably won't outright say it, they may be 7-2 now. They may be looking to defend the championship now. Good luck winning those playoff games when your number 1 receiver is not getting the ball, when he's a glorified offensive lineman. I know, and it's not even when you have a receiver with that skill. It shouldn't be that hard to just draw a tunnel screen to him. Just start the game with a tunnel screen. Just start with a short hitch route if they play off. Try just a smoke screen. He's 6'3", 240. Just get him the ball and let him terrorize a 5'11", 197-pound quarter one time. We saw at the end of that Packers game, 4th and 6. I don't think it was supposed to be snapped, but it was anyway. And they just like, panic throw up to get his 3rd target. Like, that wasn't even like an actual, that might as well have been an arm punt. So I don't agree with the way he went about it, but he's not entirely wrong. They got to figure this out. This is embarrassing. When you have a receiver of that talent and he's getting he has less receiving yards than a 3rd string white running back on your team. That should never happen. I don't know what they did. It's a weird, toxic situation for everybody involved. It's very, very unusual, but at the same time, not unusual when you think about the Eagles' history.
Yeah. The Eagles' offense is struggling this year. I want to start there. I think it's important because to give a perspective here, they are 26 in total offense in the league. 26. That reigning Super Bowl, all that stuff for the Eagles. 26 in the nation, or in the league after 9 games, and 26 in passing, 21st in rushing, but top 15 in scoring.
And
what does that tell me?
First and 3 and outs on top of it.
Yeah, 1st and 3 and outs. So what does that tell me? That tells me this offense sucks. Like that tells me this offense is not good in long yardage situation, meaning you have more than 40 yards to go to score. This team 40 yards and in can score. Great. You have a great defense half the time, so that works in your favor.
Literally
But
half.
yeah. And to all my Eagles fans, I'm not like as much as I've grown up hating the Eagles. Let me be very clear. I love Devontae Smith. I love Saquon. I think Jalen Hurts is a fantastic quarterback if given an opportunity. But right now, they have not been giving opportunities to their talented players. And A.J. Brown is the head of this monster of talented players not getting opportunity. Because whatever they're doing offensively is like, I just went into full defensive mode and I'm trying to cover a 21-point lead is what they're doing offensively. And that's when the game's 0-0.
The game starts that way.
It's egregious to watch. I actually would still much rather watch a New York Giants game than watch a Philadelphia Eagles game because at least they're trying to score. It feels like with the Eagles, it's like, how close can I get you to my end zone so I can get you to turn over the ball so I only have like 20 yards to go? That's what it feels like you're watching. And it doesn't work. This is a situation where I as much as I hate diva receivers, I actually agree with A.J. Brown in a lot of ways and why he's frustrated. I understand it. I think Devontae's probably frustrated. He just won't come out and say it to the media because the dude doesn't say more than 10 words. Jalen will also never say anything. Saquon will probably also never say anything because that's their personalities. You won't get it out of Dallas Goedert. Who you will get it out of is A.J. You'll also get it out of their offensive line, who have already said they're not playing up to snuff. Jordan Mailata has come out and said that many a times already this season, not playing well. And I think that's an important thing when you look at the success of the Eagles of like, they need to figure out their offensive game. And this happened last year at points in times other than Saquon. Everything else on this team just bogged down. And then it was like, oh, we figured it out. And they both offense and defense would just excelled for the rest of the year. This year, it doesn't feel like they have the ability to figure it out. And I think you have to actually take a hard look at Sirianni calling plays. Because
Might have to start.
I think it has to happen at this point in time. If you are going to succeed, whatever's working right now, or whatever you think is working, it's not. Because you need to fix this because you are that team in the NFC now. Every target is on you and the Lions. You have to win. Your fans won't let you lose. They will literally boo you off the field. And hell, they're booing off the field and then wins. It's tough for the Eagles, man. It's a tough situation, and they need to figure it out, and they need to figure it out quickly. But A.J. Brown's not wrong in this situation by any means.
I would prefer he didn't go about it this way. Next thing you know, he's going to post on Facebook something as a weird caption. Then MySpace.
I don't think A.J. Brown even has a Facebook. Instagram though, for sure.
We're going to go through all of them. I don't love but just looking at this here too. Third time in 8 games that he has totaled 2 or fewer receptions. That should never happen for a receiver of his caliber. And I know they're 7-2. It's going to hear should winning be the only thing? Kind of, yes, but especially when it's not sustainable winning. When you're a receiver, you don't really get the credit for the wins either. Like Julian Edelman has 3 rings, but it's not the same conversation as other guys. Quarterbacks only ones where you can really kind of get away with that. And even then, it's not necessarily the case. Obviously, winning is the most important thing, but A.J. Brown's looking at it like he's 28 years old, I believe. Say 5 more good years left. He's like, I'm trying to make the Hall of Fame probably. I'm trying to be remembered as one of the greats. You get fun from playing football, not fun from doing cardio and pads. So I get it at the same time. It's not like he's a scrub. And if he was getting bogged down and had like 8 targets, was only getting like 3 catches a game, like he just couldn't separate, whatever it would be, that's one thing. It's the fact that he's getting completely ignored when we've seen him succeed nonstop, basically. He's on pace while fully healthy, minus missing the 1 game. He has 31 for 408 and 3 touchdowns. So if we double that, which would be generous at this point, 60 catches, 800 yards, we're not going to get 6 touchdowns. That's not good enough. I don't know what the issue is. I don't know if it's the play calling. I don't know if Jalen's gone. I don't know if there's Chipotle sitting over A.J. Brown's head and he can't stop thinking about it and it's all on him. I don't know what it is right now, but something clearly isn't clicking. If you're the Eagles and you want to go back to back, you're going to get all of these teams best. You're 7-2. You've one of the best teams in the league. You can make a case they'd be number 1 in a power ranking right now. I think when you look at the long term, in addition to the A.J. Brown side of it, if you look long term, they're going to play the Lions this week. Well, it's a regular season game in Philly, so that's one thing. Even if you win this one, it's like, what about the playoffs when Dan Campbell's in the bag now? What about when you play the Packers when they're in the bag? What about when you play the Rams with Matthew Stafford, who nearly beat them in a snowstorm last year, was within a few points? Well, they had an elite defense and an elite Saquon Barkley. Nothing is working right now. Last year, you could chalk it up to, all right, Saquon's running ballistic and our defense is number one in the game. Okay, I'll be a little quieter. I'm not making the steam, not making some noise. I get what we're doing is working. Right now, you're surviving as opposed to winning. I think that's the part that makes it harder, too. It's like, we need to do something different, but we're not doing anything different. So we'll see. We'll see if A.J. Brown wants to. We'll see. I wonder if things continue, what the offseason is going to look like. I'm marking that on the calendar right now. Like, I can't wait for that March 7th or whatever the date that New Year is when the trades could start kicking in, because you still could fetch a first-round pick for A.J. Brown, I'm sure, depending.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe a second if things get a little bit volatile and it's like, all right, he's gone regardless, but
no, I get him in a round that is ripe with tons of quality receivers. Oh, how sad.
Oh, darn. What a shame. A former second-round pick, he was in his own right. But go ahead and let us know down below what you all think. Oh, you got one more real quick.
Yeah, it's more of a funny comment. I actually kind of hate the fact that news is no longer what it once was, because this is a moment where I need reporters filing into A.J. Brown's driveway to watch him bench pressing and talking about how he just wants to play for his team and he needs to get paid to be able to play for his team. And in his case, it's like, I just need to get used. I like actually use me on the field, because I think this would be perfect. Honestly, I need a Chipotle commercial with him. Like, let's get him in a Chipotle in front of a bunch of screens and be like, hey, this is my future. Because like I need it at this point in time with how and to be fair, I honestly, he has every right to be frustrated by this, given what he did, what he's done in his career. He deserves to be frustrated by this. This is frustrating from a fan perspective as well, especially fantasy owner perspective if you have money on the line in your league. But yeah, this is hey, I just wish the news was what it once was.
To be fair, he was at least allowed on the facility, and they did go to him this time where T.O. wasn't even allowed in the facility, so they had to go to him. So we'll see. I won't rule out hope. There is a chance he can get sent home, and we will get to this point, but we'll definitely keep an eye on that. And that being said, I'm still considering taking his overs in the next game, just because this would be the type of game where he randomly goes off and then gets ignored for a month, and then we're right back where we started. So we'll keep an eye on those for sure. Keep an eye out for DJ's best bets. Maybe we'll throw A.J. Brown in there, to be continued. But next up, we're going to talk for one receiver. We're going to talk another one who's also a receiver, a corner, and much up. Travis Hunter out for the season with a knee injury. Jaguars, miserable loss to the Texans where they gave up 29, I think, if I'm remembering correctly, 20 points in the fourth quarter and gained 2 yards. And that miserable loss to Davis Mills and the Texans. Hunter now heading to IR. Brian Thomas banged up. Adidas clearly reeling after spending so much money on those Travis Hunter and Trevor Lawrence commercials, and it is not working out right now for them. Congratulations to the Colts. I think they just won the AFC South. They was already in the driver's seat, but the Jaguars were surviving as it was when they were fully healthy off the back of an insane level of takeaways in that first month and a half, and those seem to slow down. I won't say they're going to win the division. That might be a little dramatic, but Jaguars might be in trouble, though. I think they, let alone a wild card spot, let alone the division, they might be in some serious trouble now. I feel for Travis. I hope he gets better. Hopefully it's an easy, quick recovery, but I think this all but puts to bed his playing 2 ways in the NFL long term. Maybe they'll try it again next year out of stubbornness because you gave up so much for him. But at this point, I think it's time to just pick one and maybe let him play a little, like put him at receiver full time, then let him like play a little corner safety every now and again if you go like 6 DBs or something. But at this point, it's time to lock it. It's time to just lock it.
Move the man to safety. Don't let him play corner anymore. Call it swell. I want him to play receiver. I want him to play safety. I don't want him to play corner anymore. I'm just done with seeing it. It doesn't work. It's not that he's bad at it, but for the longevity of your team, I need him in safety. But
I don't even need him starting safety. I need him like certain situation safety too.
Yeah, but yeah, I think it does hurt the Jaguars a little bit. I don't think it's a death sentence for the Jaguars. I think it just hurts their flow, I think is really what it is. Their cadence, what they were doing, their momentum, it doesn't help matters. I also think they're missing Tank Bigsby, believe it or not. I think that is a miss for him because it doesn't feel like Travis Etienne is getting the same impact every game that he did when Tank was behind him, because with Tank, you still had to worry about it. And it doesn't feel like Tootin is yet there as a running back in the NFL.
You got to give more than 2 carries.
Yeah,
you got to give more than 2 carries a month.
It's absolutely true. But yeah, I think the Jaguars, I think they're in trouble, but I don't think it's necessarily a trouble of like they don't have the talent. I think it's a trouble of right now they just feel off step, like off cadence just a hair. And at least for Adidas, they at least have Patty Mahomes, so they're fine. But
I will say if I feel more comfortable at Jacksonville turning around if Mac Jones is still the backup quarterback, because now with Travis Hunter, you would think, okay, force feed Brian Thomas Jr., our elite receiver. But as we have seen, that has not been the case when Mac Jones hasn't been in his Jaguars uniform. So I don't even, maybe Jacoby Myers and Parker Washington are about to go off as they've been weirdly doing this year. I don't know. Defensively, they're fine, but they're very dependent on takeaways, as we saw. Even against Houston, the first half, they were taking the ball away left and right. Then when the takeaway stopped, they got absolutely obliterated by Davis Mills and his 4-foot-long neck. And Nico Collins looked completely reinjuvenated. That we talked about this earlier in the season. The takeaway streak that they were on was not sustainable. What was plan B? Well, as we can see, plan B is gone now. There is no plan B, as we've seen. And you can't be really losing players to Travis Hunter's potential. That's what worries me. I don't think him out is what's going to kill them off. I think that was the thing that's going to kill them off. But now you're out another player. We'll see how it works. I mean, Travis Hunter had been very good. Probably wasn't going to get Rookie of the Year at this point with what Tyler Warren and Emeka Egbuka have been doing. And defensively, probably not either as well. But
he has an interception.
There's a chance for those who took him as their individual defensive player and we're getting points for it. I feel for them if we're going to talk fancy. But hopefully he recovers, gets better. I want to see him just come back and play receiver, then moonlight at safety on occasion in certain situations. That's what I want to see. But what they give up to get him, I think we're going to see at least one more year of trying to split it both ways. But we'll see for sure. Maybe he could bring home some hardware and prove us all wrong while doing both. You know who will be bringing home some hardware, though? Somebody in the NFL for MVP, which will not take us into our next part. The MVP ladder, similar to Kelcey's Heisman hierarchy, where I give our 3 MVP candidates as we head into Week 11. And we got ourselves a shakeup here. I'm going to start before I even get to the graphic with my honorable mention. Drake May is the honorable mention at number 4 right now. He did absolutely nothing wrong to fall out of the top 3. It's what everybody else did. He's been fantastic this season. The Patriots have the weakest schedule I've ever seen by a good team in my life. So they're about to get the number 1 seed because I don't think they're going to lose a game the rest of the way. Or if they do, they'll lose 1 to Buffalo. It is lined up perfectly for Drake May to be awesome. A big win over a winning team in the Buccaneers. So I can't even hold about 58%, 55% completion, I believe it was. 272 touchdowns, a pick. Not a great game, not a really, but it was a fine game. Shouldn't have dropped him. But the reason he's going down is because of the addition of a first time to the list, Jackson Smith-Njigba. On pace for Calvin Johnson level numbers. I know it was a quiet game against the Cardinals, 5 catches for 93 yards and a touchdown. Oh no, his first game since September 25th under 100 yards. Still on that count. He did all of that in the first quarter too. After it was 35-7 at halftime. The Sam Darnold, I don't think threw a pass in the second half. And JSN's still on that Calvin Johnson pace. He's been electric. The only reason Sam Darnold's not on this list, honestly, in that spot is JSN's been that ridiculous. The offense has run through him clearly. And I did not love those 2 lost fumbles from Darnold. That in a very close race like that, JSN's going to get the nod. He's going to be at number 3 right now. He's been sensational and continues to be. You're going to notice a trend here, and you know what it is? It doesn't have to be a dang quarterback every single time. Jonathan Taylor, number 2. Another hat trick, his 4th one of the season, 200 yards. He put Daniel Jones on his back with Daniel Jones and his lipstick, blood, and everything, and carried that team to a win over the Falcons when they had nothing going for them. Jones made a few clutch plays down the stretch, and by that I mean Tyler Warren saved them. But this was a Jonathan Taylor masterclass from pillar to post. They ought to bye week. Moving forward, if they're going to go anywhere, it's going to be on the back of number 28. We talked about this last time he's having a sensational season in 2021. It was him and Cooper Kupp. They should have been more consideration, and out of that, there was 1 MVP vote for Cooper Kupp. This feels like it's going to be the offensive player of the year race between these 2, which is unfortunate because they should both truly be in the MVP race. I know we're the weird ones that think that non-quarterbacks can make a case, but what these 2 have done so far, absolutely sensational. JT, the only reason the Colts are currently the number 1 seed in the AFC right now, because it is not Daniel Jones lighting it up. And to answer your question of last week, no, Daniel Jones is not an honorable mention this week either. He has unfortunately played himself out of it for now because there's so many competitive guys in there. All that to be said, we still have a quarterback at the top of the list in Matthew Stafford. If the season ended today, he would have I believe this would be the 7th most touchdowns he's thrown in a season already. He's at 25 touchdowns with 2 picks. He has not thrown an interception since mid-September. He's been on an absolute tear. 3 consecutive games where he's thrown 4 more touchdowns. They're 7-2, tie at the top of the NFC. When we go eye test, I don't think there is a better team in the league right now than the Rams, just from eye test alone. They're tied at the top of the whole lot of teams. He's been sensational. Puka's out for a game. What does he do? He throws 5 touchdowns. Devontae Adams gets banged up. Just throws a touchdown to the tight ends. Kyron Williams has been fine. He hasn't been Jonathan Taylor, Bijan Robinson yet. Stafford's been sensational. The best football he's played his entire career. At this pace, he's well on his way to being MVP, All-Pro. Getting a lot closer to that ticket to Canton. He's definitely making a case for it. I think this MVP will go a long way towards that. Right now, he's playing as good as anybody. The only quarterback that should be above JSN and JT at this point. Every other quarterback should be behind them. This is MVP, not MVQB. But Stafford right now will still get the nod.
I respect it. By the way, Jonathan Taylor got me 49 points in fantasy in my work league. So, yeah, I was cool with that. That was amazing.
He also got 57 in our other league where to give bonuses for those big runs. So, the highest scoring player game of the season by anybody.
Yeah. So, no, easily the well-deserving of continuing to be on this list. JSN, I love the fact that we talked about this ad nauseum last week as well. I think JSN is a well-deserving MVP candidate. And Stafford, I think, is playing excellent right now. Until further notice, should be an MVP candidate. I know we assigned 1, 2, and 3, but honestly, I feel like all of these are like 1A, 1B, 1C, and it's just a matter of can you give it to a non-quarterback, and can the position player break a record within their category? I think that's going to be the determining factor of if a non-quarterback gets the MVP this year. Is if like JT or JSN gets a record within their position. I think that's going to be the determining factor. But I like this list so far.
I feel like if JT's going to get it, he has to. If he doesn't break LT's record, he's got to get into second place ahead of Sean Alexander, basically. So he has to get 29, 30 touchdowns, and the Colts have to be the number 1 seed. It's the only way I think he's going to get it, because that means he drug Daniel Jones to the 1 seed. Maybe the 2 seed. We'll see how the rest of the season plays out. JSN, kind of a similar thing. He has to be in that Calvin Johnson, Cooper Kupp range. They got to be the 1 seed. And he has to continue to account for such a huge percentage of their passing offense. And I think Stafford will have to fall off. I mean, 25-2 ratio. At this pace, he's looking at, if I'm trying to do rough math, his most touchdowns of his career would probably be, his most is 41. He's done twice. So at this pace, we'll say like 43-5, which is just absolutely insane. And he'll be close to 5,000 yards. I believe he's 4th in the league in passing yards now. So I think Stafford would have to fall off for sure, or the Rams as a whole would have to fall off. And I think those two, like you said, unfortunately, the nature of the business is they have to be in record air. But Stafford himself is in record air as well right now. He's looking a lot like 2020 Aaron Rodgers. Not the one that he should have won, not the following year when it should have gone to JT or Cooper Kupp or Tom Brady, but the one that he won emphatically. Stafford's well on his way to that. He's playing at an all-time level right now. We'll see if it can continue. And I will never listen to a preseason report about his back ever again. As far as I'm concerned, he is 100% at all times. I don't care if he might have to retire due to a spine issue. I'm going to call BS, because clearly he's as good as he's ever looked.
Matt Stafford, the only quarterback that plays better with back injuries in his career.
They broke his back, spinal, and he got better. I don't get it, but he's been absolutely sensational. He's at the top of the list right now. Let us know down below who you all have as your current NFL MVP. And if you think this could be the year a non-quarterback wins it, this would be our luck, right? There's like 2 to 3 guys that aren't quarterbacks that could win it. And the quarterback, there isn't like a bunch of quarterbacks that you can make above, but there is one. That'll be the one that gets it. This will actually be the final list of like, well, see, we did vote for non-quarterbacks, but they did it just because they knew it was going to be Stafford. He'll be unanimous, but he'll be the only quarterback in the top 3. They're slick. They're not getting biased, but that's going to do it here for the main event, which will now take us into Kelcey's favorite part of every show. And that is, of course, crunch time and another day, another sports betting controversy. We're going to continue this until it just stops. This time we're going back to baseball as some gambling guardians. Luis Ortiz pleads not guilty in connection to the MLB sports betting scandal. Just a long story short, basically, we'll scroll down a little bit. They were more or less accused of throwing pitches and based on getting bets, like, hey, throwing a ball out of the gate, that sort of thing. More due to bribery. Emmanuel Clase, same thing. He has not yet turned himself in. He's expected to this week at the time of the recording. Ortiz is due back at December 2nd. The judge did say earlier in the article that he was a potential flight risk, so keeping an eye to see what happens with that. But once again, another situation. This isn't just like accusations either. They are literally indicted at this point. Like they are being arraigned. They are facing charges. So once again, another week, another scandal. I could make the joke of, you see, James Dolan, this is why you should pay your players. Guardians know as being notoriously cheap. Maybe they wouldn't have to resort to these. Yeah. But at the same time, we've seen that that's the case across sports. But I don't know if the thing is to eliminate prop bets or eliminate unders. I don't know what the answer is here, or just take away the apps and make it so you have to go into a casino, which I hope they don't do, because we love the sports gamble here. I think it's great for those who aren't participating in the sport. Speaking of which, check out UFC 322 best picks and predictions and bets coming up later this week. Shameless sports plugging. Good plug right there as well. But I don't know what the answer is here. And I feel like it's going to get worse before it gets better, because this, like we talked about, the NBA has one. College basketball has one. Another MLB one. It just continues and continues at this point. So, and this is, if I saw it correctly, that if they get found guilty of this, we're talking decades in prison too.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the only sport you can honestly say that they can do this prop bet rigging to this level. And then what I mean by this is, like, pitchers are the only position in sports that dictate exactly what is going to happen on the first pitch of every at bat. They're the only position that can say that they, in the first meeting of somebody, that position determines the initial result. The prop bet is so specific that if they weren't greedy, which they were, but if they weren't greedy, they could have done this for decades and nobody would have ever known. He would have just been categorized as having a percentage of opportunity to throw a certain pitch by other players in the league. Yeah, it might get outlandish if he's throwing 40% splitters, but at the end of the day, this is how these things happen. These small, minute bets that maybe in the grand scheme of the sport seem insignificant can rack up to determining billions of dollars worth of revenue or changes in money, and it is insane. It's not like this is a betting ring, like they're playing on illegal tables. This is something that can be predetermined before the game. Yeah. There you go. $400,000 won at least in fraudulent wagers. I can guarantee that probably is a lot more in losses. And I think that's one that's just in one game. So yeah, I don't know, man. It's hard because, like, Luis Ortiz didn't have as many opportunities as Clase, but Clase being one of the best closers in the game, every ninth inning that the Guardians were up by at least 3 runs, he would be in the game. And there were many games where he was in when they were down in the 8th and ninth inning to try to just shut down whatever the other team was doing. So he can still determine that being the case. And I think when you start thinking about, like, what they can do, yeah, I think getting rid of the small, minute bets like this, these niche bets, feels like the only way to do it, and it's weird because, like, as a sports bettor, you don't really ever look at those. If you're a general sports bettor, you're just like, oh, whatever. But, like,
you gotta be a demon.
There's some folks out there that they look for these things through every nook and cranny, and they try to find every opportunity they can to find a dollar, and they chase the tail. And this is them chasing the tail. And the 400,001 isn't necessarily as bad as what the potential losses were on that. And I think that when I look at that number, it's even crazier. But yeah, these two, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if more players it comes out with this, especially players who come up from bad upbringings. And you don't want to talk about it very often, but it's not like especially in baseball, there's not a lot of players that come out from non-American players, non-American specific players that come from great backgrounds. If they come from Japan, it's probably a pretty great background. But if they come from any of the Caribbean countries, they probably don't come from a very affluent family. Most of those guys come from the slums, and they're playing street ball, playing stick ball to get in the league. And from American players, there's very few that come from a very downtrodden region. Most of them, because baseball is an expensive sport in America. So it's one of those things. Like, unfortunately, I probably expect a few more players, especially pitchers, to be the case that this is going to be there, because this is just one of those things. Like, when you look at bets that can be potentially finagled some way or another, first pitch to a batter can be only determined by one person, and that's the pitcher. So
unless the hitter's going to swing at one that's 30 yards outside the box, then they might be getting investigated. I'm saying if it's a strike or a ball.
Well, that's the thing is, like, so they don't go off of when it hits the mitt. They just go off of where it fits in the box, whether it was hit or not.
See, now we're getting, this is exactly the point you were making too. Like, there are some demon ones. There's the ones of, is this a striker, is a ball? Then you go into those ones. So they need to eliminate the demon bets. It needs to basically
be like, what is the pitch? Like, is it a fork ball? Is it a screwball? Is it a fastball? Is it a changeup? Like, those are all super determined too. Is the first result a home run? Well, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to pipe a fastball against the number one home run hitter in the league and watch him hit it 450 feet. Like, these things are all, you have so many analytics in baseball from a player perspective that when you look at the betting perspective side of where you can find a hole to attack a player, there are so many statistics that you can look at and a player could be like, yeah, I could do that. That's no problem. Like, these are the best of the best athletes in baseball. They know how to pitch.
It's definitely, we're definitely starting to look back on things. Some of those games that Clase choked after being the league's best closer, then choking a few of those playoff games, like that Yankees series, starting to draw into a little bit of question. I'm not saying, I'm just saying.
It was 2003 is when it started, so that's all there is to it.
I'm just saying too. We saw it a couple of years ago. I'm just saying, but you know what? Letting it be. But we're gonna wrap this show up here on another gambling controversy. Maybe next week will be the week we don't have a gambling situation here on Crunch Time. But we're not. Will you take the over under on that? Pun intended. But we appreciate y'all so much for joining us, and we'll see you all again next time.